So, should we bring in the closer?
I
And
think it'd be a good time for that.
all right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 57 of Free Baseball Podcast, presented by the Athletes Hub and presented by me, Davis Bird, and the man to whatever direction you want to look at the screen from is Jake Crumpler. So it's episode number 57 of our wonderful baseball podcast that we joke around and meme about and do all sorts of fun things with. It is Saturday. We typically do it on a Wednesday, but it's been a weird week for both of us, so we moved it back. We're doing it today. Get over it. Baseball Saturday afternoon. Like, what's the Saturday morning cartoon? Saturday morning cartoons. Saturday afternoon free baseball, and there's a lot to talk about. Just as always, we're gonna start off, since it's the regular season, with the hot weeks. And it's, as you can see through both of our hats, it's a pretty Cubs heavy hot weeks because they've been one of the hottest teams in baseball. We're going to start with Patrick Wisdom.
I didn't even realize.
I know. We're going to start with Patrick Wisdom. So since the 14th, Patrick Wisdom has 37 plate appearances. He's hitting 306, got a 324 on base percentage, slugging 917. He scored 9 runs. He's got 6 stingers, 17 RBIs, and 0.7 F4. Jake pointed out while we were talking about this before the podcast that he actually has more F4 now on the season than he did all of last year, and we are not even out of April yet. So, Patrick Wisdom, he's been one of the big sluggers in Cubs offense that just doesn't hit a lot of dingers, and he's kind of been hitting lots of dingers.
Yeah, he and Cody Bellinger both have more F4 than they had last season. Pretty easy for Bellinger to do, but yeah. Wisdom's been crazy. I mean, we all know that he's like a big power guy. He can go on stretches. He's a pretty streaky player. We know that because he strikes out so much, and that sort of makes guys into streaky hitters where they go in and out of being elite and being not elite. But this is one of those hot stretches for Wisdom. He's now second in baseball with 8 dingers. No, he's at 9. 9, second in baseball behind Pete Alonso's 10. That's pretty cool. I don't think it lasts. I don't think this is like a new breakout for Wisdom. Maybe he can take a small step forward if he maintains the around 32% strikeout rate he's got right now, which would be a career best. I think that says everything you need to know about Wisdom. So I mean, awesome to see him just mashing home runs. But yeah, don't expect this to continue for the rest of the season or even for an extended period of time.
No, but it's nice seeing that the Cubs offense is actually working, because a lot of major outlets have kind of said like, oh, the Cubs offense is going to suck. You know, their defense will be good. Their pitching is probably going to be good. Their offense has been one of the best in baseball. Scored the most runs. We talked about Nico Horner. Jake's got Nico Horner on his baseball team, or on his fantasy baseball team. So we talked about that earlier. Current leader in hits, and they're leading the National League in run differential. So they've been really good to start, and part of that has been based on their pitching, which we'll talk about now, which has been buoyed by one guy like this, Drew Smyly. Both of these starts, so since the 14th, he had 2 starts against the Dodgers, and on the 16th, he went 5 2/3. He gave up 4 hits, just 1 earned, 2 walks, and 3 Ks. Just 5 whiffs this time, but that's good for a 24% called strikes plus whiffs percentage. Smyly was not really expected to be a pretty key cog in their rotation. I think we all figured he'd probably end up in like a swingman role, like he's been basically everywhere since he left Seattle, and he's been nails in the rotation. This was a really good start, and there's obviously a better one we'll talk about here in a minute, but early signs for Smyly, what do you think?
Looking pretty good. I feel like this is I don't want to say similar to Wisdom because it's hard to draw parallels between hitters and pitchers like that, but this seems like a guy who's gone in and out of being good, and it's hard to sort of pinpoint what makes him good, right? Because when he was with the Giants, it was like he added on a couple miles per hour of velocity, and that made all the difference. And then he went to Atlanta and was sort of bad. But last year, I mean, he was pretty underrated. 3.47 ERA in 106 innings. That's really good, right? So to see him sort of replicating that in some way is pretty promising. And I'm not sure if it's like the curveball, which has been pretty all right throughout the year, and the sinker that's not like showing elite velocity. I'm just like, I don't know what makes him so good. It's probably like what's it called? Deception thing. Yeah. So I don't know if it's like he's being extra deceptive right now or what the difference is between his Giants, Braves, and Cubs self, but it is interesting to see that he's been able to take down such a good team. Nice.
Oh, yeah. So that second start, since Jake just alluded to it, happened yesterday. And it was also against the Dodgers. He went 7 2/3 innings pitched, just a 1 hit, flirted with the perfect game because he didn't walk anybody, allowed no base runners, no earned in this game, got pulled in the 8th. 10 strikeouts, 18 whiffs. And that's good for a 37% called strikes plus whiff percentage, which is super, super elite. And he's not a guy that generates a lot of whiffs. He actually took a perfect game into the 8th. And the first hit he gave up was an infield single where Yan Gomes football tackled him, trying to get the ball off of him. So who knows what could have happened. But yeah, Smiley, I mean, really, really solid little stretch there, dismantling the Dodgers, which I'm sure they very much enjoyed.
Yeah, and we looked it up before the pod. That hit that he gave up to Peralta was not only just 32.9 miles per hour off the bat, but it was also the weakest hit ball of the entire day, which is so unlucky to just get such weak contact and then get WWE slammed by your catcher. But yeah, that 37% CSW was the highest rate on the day as well. So he was really killing it throughout the league. I mean, just getting 10 strikeouts against the Dodgers, no matter what, is a great performance, but to get that close to perfection is pretty awesome. It would be so baseball to have Drew Smiley throw like the first perfect game since, when was the last one? Like 2013? I know. When was that?
I think it was 2012.
Yeah, it was years ago. So I mean, it's been a long, long time, almost at least 10 years, if not just about 10 years. So yeah, I mean, it would be so baseball to have Drew Smiley be the first guy to do that. 2012. Yeah. So, well, pretty cool. You know,
I got into the random like pitching events like that. Do you remember their last no hitter? Or do you remember their COVID no hitter where Alec Mills no hit the Brewers with 1 strikeout?
That's ridiculous. I do remember that. Yeah. Well, at least we got Smiley taking down the Dodgers, so you know that makes him one of my favorite players over the last week.
Oh yeah, super lit. And speaking of last week, players of the week were announced on the 17th. Obviously, we're moving this back, so we would have announced this on Wednesday, that would have been the 19th. So, yeah, but the players of the week we're going to be from the AL side. It's going to be Garrett Cole, obviously the New York Yankees, and from the NL side, it is Zach Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And there's just 1 week last year where both players of the week were pitchers. So it's a fun little event there. Put up the Garrett Cole meme.
I did.
I love that meme.
Yeah. I had my friend deep fried it. Made it look real good. I was just looking at that the other day and I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot about Fat Garrett Cole meme. It's a good one. And he made it even better. So yeah, I was like, got to use this today because he's the player of the week. But
leave it out. Make it the background.
It's pretty awesome to see 2 pitchers going off. Gallen's been killing it after somewhat of a slow start to the season. And I think most people that were following baseball, they remember how amazing he was in the second half of last year, where he was looking like he could possibly put himself in Cy Young contention. He did, and this might be the year where he fully does that over the whole season. And the Diamondbacks are actually like a surprisingly good team, so it's pretty crazy it's pretty nice to have Gallen as your ace when you're trying to make that big step up from, you know, middling team to playoff contender. But Gallen should be able to help there. And Garrett Cole, I mean, doing what Yankees fans and his contract suggests that he should be doing.
Oh yeah,
being fat.
Yeah, Garrett Cole, everyone knows, is a major strikeout artist, but Zach Gallen, I think, deserves a lot of plaudits because he had his 2 starts that week when you have like one where he had 11 strikeouts, one where he had like 7 or 8.
Yeah, he had 11 last time.
Who was that against?
Yesterday.
Well, who did he have during the week though? So they had the players of the week from previous.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll look it up. Brewers. Take that, Brewers. Go do one.
Yeah.
Leave Fat Garrett Cole up. We'll keep going. Players of the week. Real cool. We'll talk about extensions. The Minnesota Twins extended their ace. We've been talking about ace pitchers. They extended their newfound ace, Pablo Lopez, for 4 years, $73.5 million dues. It's going to buy out 3 years of his free agency. And he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. So I think this is a deserved extension. And it's weird that this trade with Arias and Lopez has turned out to be such a win-win for both teams.
Yeah, it's really cool to see Pablo Lopez take off. He was a guy that I think everybody was pegging for a breakout for years as a guy that showed really good stuff on the Marlins, great ballpark, great pitching development. He's got solid stuff, but he was always like a 2-pitch guy where he was like fastball changeup and he could never find that third pitch. He'd like try to cutter, he tried a curveball, all kinds of stuff, but nothing really stuck. But this year he goes to the Twins in the Luis Arias deal, which can't think of a better win-win there. But yeah, he's incorporated a sweeper or a slider, whatever you want to call it, and it's actually been amazing. He sort of turned to it as his like primary secondary pitch, which that those words do seem contradictory, but they're not. And it's been great this year. 76 percentile PLV right now, which is really good. It's got a 42% CSW, which is in the 97th percentile. So one of the best sweepers in baseball right now. And this is his first year throwing it. That's really awesome. And that's really helped him take off. He's also added on a couple miles per hour of velocity. He's at 95 miles per hour on average this year after 93.5 last year. So that's helping a lot. And then he still got that changeup. That was sort of his bread and butter pitch throughout the years. So it's been pretty awesome all year up until today. I think he got crushed by the Nationals. Double checking.
They did. I don't think he got crushed by the Nationals, but they did lose to the Nationals.
He allowed 5 runs and 8 hits in 4 innings versus the Nationals. That's crushed. I mean, you can say it's not crushed if he's facing like a really good team, but when you're facing a terrible team, that's crushed.
Yeah, he sucks. I take it back.
Yeah. So the Twins were smart to extend him, keep him for 3 extra years. That's pretty awesome. I think it's like $21 million a year for the 3 years of free agency. That's a pretty good deal for a guy that could be an ace. He sort of broke out last year because I talked about how like the third pitch was sort of the thing holding him back. It was the health that was the biggest thing holding him back, where he was just never able to stay healthy for a full season. And we finally saw that last year. And it wasn't like spectacular, right? We never saw him pitch more than 111 innings. And last year he reached 180, but it was like a 3.75 ERA and a strikeout rate of like 24%. Nothing like crazy, like definitely above average, very good pitcher, but not like, oh, this is an ace of a franchise in the future over the next few years. And then this year he's really looking like an ace so far. So if he can be like a sub-3 ERA guy or a low 3s ERA guy and earn $21 million a year pitching 180 innings, that's pretty good in my book.
Yeah, it feels like Pablo Lopez is a lot older than he actually is because he made his debut in 2018 and it feels like he's been around for a long time. Plus he also just kind of looks old. Do you know what I mean? So
he has a beard.
Yeah, well, yeah, but he has like the kind of beard that makes him look like a grizzled old man. It's the same with him and Jose Urquidy. Both of those guys look about 5 to 6 years older than they are. Jose Urquidy, Pablo Lopez is only 27, so the 4-year deal takes him through age 31 season. And then, like you said, it's like a $21 million AAV for those years of free agency. So that's like really a steal if he continues. Not even if like he continues the level that he's at, that's like a huge bargain because Miles Michaelis is making $20 million a year.
Yeah, which is like what he was last year.
Yeah. So like if Pablo Lopez continues to just be good, this is an insane deal for the Twins. And talking about more pitcher extensions, the Reds actually spent some money on a player that plays baseball.
No way.
I know I feel like it's the first time in both of our lifetimes. But the Reds extended Hunter Green, 6 years, $53 million. It's got a $21 million club option for 2029. And then escalators and bonuses could max the deal out close to $100 million. It's about $96.2 million. This just buys out 1 year of his free agency unless they exercise that option, it'll buy out 2. But yeah, the Reds extended Hunter Green, and Hunter Green, more surprisingly, agreed to the extension with the Reds.
Yeah, he's one of the most electric pitchers in baseball, the hardest fastball in all of baseball. He just constantly throws 100 miles per hour with ease. And this was one of like the most hyped, I don't want to say debuts, but he was like a super hyped draft guy because he could have been a position player as well. I would have loved to see Hunter Green be a two-way guy because I think he could have actually done it if Shohei had debuted before, or if Shohei had done what he did, won the MVP before Green sort of made his debut or made his way through the minors. But anyway, he's still just like a great pitcher. He's got the hardest fastball in all of baseball, and he's got a slider that's actually pretty dang good in its own right. And I mean, he's only hurt by that ballpark and stuff, but he's still only 23, which is pretty crazy. So this is a great deal for the Reds to keep him around. I think he's still a few tweaks away from becoming the ace that he's destined to be. Because right now, I mean, the comparison is clear, right? It's Jacob deGrom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. He needs a third pitch though.
He needs a third pitch, and he needs to locate better. And also, it's still like a pitch mix thing where he's like he's learning how to do like the Blake Snell blueprint of fastballs up and breakers down. But I think the big thing is learning how to mix, like switch speeds better, mix speeds up better,
Right.
because it's just like if you turn to your fastball 60% of the time, right? Everybody knows it's coming. But if you're throwing a slider and another secondary the majority of the time, or close to the majority of the time, they're guessing all the time. It's 50-50. Is this going to be 100 miles per hour or 15 to 20 miles per hour slower, right? So I think that's like the big thing is learning how to change speeds and mix things up to keep people off balance, because modern major league hitters can handle the 100 mile per hour fastball pretty easily.
Yeah. The big thing too that we've talked about several other times here with Hunter Greene is the large issue with his fastball is that he throws it insanely hard, but it has no movement. It's really flat. So like the reason guys like, I don't know, for example, like Brusdar Graterol aren't necessarily as good as they possibly could be, or just because they throw hard, but they throw hard a lot in the zone. And it's just flat. Like, it was a problem with Jhoan Duran with the splinter for the first time, where he kind of just got lit up for a little bit and then he figured it out. I feel like he needs another pitch, at least for lefties. DeGrom on occasion will throw a changeup to lefties, but mostly it's just a slider fastball guy. Mm-hmm. And mixing up the two speeds and honestly just getting a little bit more ride on his fastball would help him a lot. So it's not just completely flat in the zone. I think that I saw a stat on Twitter or something like that where it's like one of his best starts recently was when he was locating the best, was when he actually wasn't throwing 100 almost every single time. And he was averaging right around, I think he was averaging right around 97 to 98, which is still really fast. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hunter Greene has a lot to figure out, but once he does, he'll be another DeGrom.
And even if he doesn't, he throws hard enough and is like a good enough athlete that he's still going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like this extension for the Reds. It's nice to actually see them spend money on anybody at all. And Hunter Greene has a good chance to more or less be the face of your franchise if he is good, because this takes him, he's 23, it's a 6-year extension. So it takes him through 29, his age 29 season. He'll be a free agent again at 30. Hopefully the Reds won't be terrible that entire tenure, but if they're following the Tigers mold, they probably will be, because rebuilds don't always work is the issue in baseball. So hopefully they can figure something out with Hunter Greene and actually maximize his potential. But we talked about a young guy getting an extension. We'll talk about a couple young guys making debuts. And we're going to start with the Angels. You talked about Ohtani too. Well, nice little segue, Jake. It's like you playing this.
Really?
Yeah, I know. So we're going to talk about the Angels now, and they obviously called up their 13th overall pick from 2022. Zach Neto. Is it Neto or Neto?
I think it's Neto, but
no, we'll go with Neto for this one. So they called up Zach Neto to play shortstop. He was the 13th overall pick last year in the 2022 draft. He only played 42 games in the minors, but he was really good during that time. And he's the first member of that draft class to debut. I think he was their number 2 prospect. Also and a top 100 prospect from MLB Pipeline. So nice little bit of showing that, the Angels are set on competing. They're going to call up guys if they're ready and not just keep them down in the minors, because they kind of the Angels have a clock right now and they have to at least be around the playoff spots this time, or they lose their crown jewel, not named Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani. So Neto coming up, hopefully he'll be good. I haven't really kept up with him since he has come up, but honestly, anything would be better than David Fletcher hitting. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're being desperate. He had a really small time in the minors, 44 games, but he did bat 322, and he was batting like well over 400 to start this year.
Oh yeah.
So it was definitely deserved. He's been really good, but he is still really young. I think right now he's
22.
22. Yeah, that's younger than both of us. Yeah, so I think he's going to be pretty solid. He's probably a good fielder as well, having been drafted so high. So far, he's floundered a little bit. He's not batting over 200. He's sort of struggling to make contact, which his minor league numbers didn't suggest that would happen. Right now, he's got a 56 WRC plus across his first 7 games after having a 260 WRC plus in his 7 games at AA. But yeah, I think there's something to be said about how he hasn't played AAA. He's still super young. He's barely played in the minor leagues. He's got a lot to live up to here. But yeah, you're right. I don't think the Angels are being desperate, but they are pushing the envelope. They know that like this is the last year with Shohei. If we're going to go all in, we're going to go 100% all in. We talked about that a lot when we were doing like our offseason reviews about how some teams weren't willing to go 100% all the way in. Like they want to make the playoffs, but they didn't do like the big final push to make it look like they were doing that in the offseason. Maybe they're saving that for the trade deadline, but the Angels are sort of doing that now. They they signed a lot of guys in the offseason. They are calling up top prospects. I just wish that they could play a little better, right? And we'll talk about Shohei a little more later, but yeah, I mean, this is if Neto can tap into his potential, I would love to see him go off because I mean, that lineup's really good and their rotation hasn't been terrible so far. Actually, I don't know. Their
Zach
rotation's
Neto,
been all right.
Zach Neto's hitting 130, but he has almost a 300 on base percentage and hasn't walked, which is very funny.
What does that mean?
He's been hit by 5 pitches.
What? What is he
hit.
Doing? Like Anthony Rizzo? Oh, he's Derek Dietrich. He's just standing over the plate.
Yes, he is. He's been hit by 5 pitches.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Me and Jake like guys that walk. He's been hit by as many pitches as he has strikeouts, Jake. So that's like the same thing.
What?
He struck out. Crazy. He struck out 5 times. He's been hit by 5 pitches. He's also grounded into 3 double plays, which is not good. But
no,
he's trying.
I'm sure he'll figure it out.
The big thing
this year.
The big thing is he's a very good fielder at short. And there really just weren't many other options for the Angels. Zach Neto was hitting very good in the minors, but they optioned David Fletcher as part of this, who had been playing shortstop for them, and he had somehow been worse than Zach Neto. So literally, like he had like I'll pull it up again. He had a negative 43 WRC plus. Did David Fletcher? So,
yeah.
He can't hit at all.
Do not talk about my boy like that.
He's a cool dude, but
yes,
at the major league level, he is not very good at hitting the pelota. We'll talk about our next prospect, and we're going to stay in the AL West, and this one's cool. I'll let Jake mostly talk about this one because he had a cool little thing about it. But Mason Miller made his debut for the Oakland Athletics. He's the number 3 prospect for Oakland, and that guy throws gas. Jake wrote an entire article for pitcherlist.com. So if you go to pitcherlist.com, you can watch this, or you can watch/read this really cool article where it's got a bunch of gift breakdowns of Mason Miller's debut. It was really sick. He actually debuted against the Chicago Cubs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's something else. That was the little thing you were talking about that I did was the Mason Miller gift breakdown. Those are definitely a fun read. You know, you get to see the guys' pitchers, or you get to see the guys' pitches and stuff, and you get the sort of full breakdown of the starts. You get an idea of what kind of pitcher they are and what to think about them going forward. But I think the biggest thing to take away from Miller is that he throws gas. He was like over 100 miles per hour constantly. He averaged like 99 miles per hour on his fastball in the start. The thing is, in the minors, he was like always unable to stay healthy. He's thrown very few innings throughout his minor league career. And that's sort of the big thing going forward. He's a big guy. He's like 6'5". I think he can be pretty solid going forward in his career. I think it's going to take the thing is, I literally compared him to Hunter Green in the article. So I think everything we said about Hunter Green can be said about Miller in that he needs to learn how to mix his speeds better. He was going like 65% fastballs, and I wouldn't say his fastball is I think it's the same thing as Hunter Green, where it's like his fastball is hittable. Major league hitters can handle that now, and he's got to turn to his other stuff more. The slider looked really good, and he does have a cutter that I think is actually a pretty interesting third pitch. So he does have options. He does have a changeup too that he threw like twice and it was not good. But yeah, I think he's got a bright future ahead of him in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that start, and Mason Miller, if you have not seen him, so if you actually want to go watch him, you should watch the Gift Breakdown. But he is very physically imposing, but it's a weird physically imposing. He's like 6'5" or whatever, but he looks like he weighs about 150 pounds. And he just throws gas. Ended up racking up several strikeouts. I think didn't he grade out really high on Stuff Plus?
Yeah, he was like the third best in Stuff Plus after that one start. He's 200 pounds.
But he doesn't look like it.
No.
Doesn't look like it at all. But yeah, he was really good, and that's a little bright spot for Oakland. I think he wasn't their number 3 prospect to start the year, was he? Like, wasn't that?
I don't know how that works, because I don't remember him being a top prospect for them. But then he quickly moved to top 3. But they don't update that until like they don't mix around the prospects. They don't change their prospect grades. They do the like preseason thing, and then they don't change it again until like after the deadline.
Maybe we just didn't look into it because he hasn't had much in the minors, and the A's suck. But yeah, I mean, Mason Miller will give the A's a nice little bright spot to watch in the rotation.
Yes.
Because the rest of it has not been very good. So hopefully they can win. But what do they have now? 3 wins or 4 wins?
They've played 20 games and they've won 4 times.
That's pretty good. They were 3-16. Now they're 4-16.
This has been the A's recently.
I saw that
whole season.
I saw that when I was watching.
You sent it to me.
Yeah, I know.
The A's actually posted this themselves, which is the funniest part.
That was after the Cubs trashed them.
Yeah. This was the funniest part. I mean, the A's have been being beaten by like 10 to 15 runs so many times this year. I didn't think, because the A's are so good at like being secretly like not terrible, which that's not a good thing. They're like, you look at the roster and you're like, that is awful, and then they'll secretly not be the worst team in baseball.
They'll be like,
they were the worst team last year, but this year I think they might have the worst team of all time. I think they might win like 40 games.
At this rate, do they really even win 40 games? Like, their only reason to watch the A's right now is to watch Mason Miller, and then maybe if you really, really want to, watch Brent Rooker. Brent Rooker's been the only hitter worth anything, and Mason Miller is fun. Maybe Fujinami won't suck, but right now he really sucks.
Yeah,
they're struggling. Sorry, A's fans.
It's okay.
But good news for A's fans that don't live in Oakland, because the A's are probably going to end up moving to Las Vegas. They purchased land. They purchased land on the Vegas Strip. And the park should be completed by 2027, which also raises a question that I thought about earlier. What are they going to do with their minor league team? Because their minor league team's in Vegas.
Oh, and there's like a rule about having the AAA team within a certain number of miles to the major league team.
Their AAA team's the Las Vegas Aviators. And what are they going to do with their team?
They can always do the thing where they just swap. Yeah. Which is, I think, is weird. It's just like you remove all of the players from a team and you switch them, and it's just like you really have that much loyalty to.
I hope they get to be the Sugarland Space Cowboys. That one would be sick.
Yeah, I'll take anything. I mean, it's going to be difficult for me to be an A's fan going forward. I think this is how all A's fans feel right now.
I seen that one too.
Yes, yeah. I'm just going to be incorporating memes throughout the podcast. But yeah, I mean, as an A's fan, it's like, I don't know. I was talking about this with my coworkers this week. None of them are really big sports fans, but we all have grown up in the East Bay. So there's something about being like, I don't know. There's something about like the East Bay versus San Francisco where it's like it's not. I wouldn't say it's a small town. Oakland's not a small city, but it is like compared to San Francisco. So you sort of get that small town vibe, like we're underdogs, right? And so you have lots of loyalty to a team, like being in an area that's not as well known as like the big cities throughout California that have all these teams. Like Sacramento is the capital. San Francisco is one of the most known cities in the world. We have Los Angeles and San Diego, and then there's just Oakland, and we got our own team. We got our own basketball team. We got our own football team, and now all of them are gone. The Warriors moved across the bridge to San Francisco. The Raiders also took their talents to Las Vegas, and now the A's will be gone. Like, it's just literally everybody is gone, and it's, I don't know, pretty disappointing. They were all in the same parking lot too. I don't know if you know this, but Oracle.
Yeah, I've seen that.
The Oracle
because
Stadium.
A lot of the Raiders played at Oakland Coliseum.
Correct. Yeah, they
shared
the
park. Oakland Coliseum.
They shared the park with the with the A's, and Oracle Park or Oracle Arena was in the same parking lot as the Coliseum. So it was all right there. You could take we have like a public transport called BART, which is just a train and it literally just takes you right to the stadium. There was literally just a stop for the stadium. There's nothing else there. It's just the stadium. So like now that'll still be used for like concerts, etc., that kind of stuff, which is what Oracle Arena has been used for. But yeah, I mean, it's just so disappointing to have all of the teams gone. And the biggest thing is like, I think the uneducated fans and definitely even some educated fans are going to blame the city for this, right?
Yeah, like, in a way.
But it's not the city's fault. I mean, as somebody that lives in the East Bay, like I've clearly been like watching this whole thing unfold for the last few years or so. We've been needing a ballpark for years. That place is disgusting.
It's been disgusting for probably 20 years.
Exactly. It's a very old stadium. There's no like interesting features about it except for the massive like foul territory.
And it consistently ranks as one of the shittiest stadiums.
Oh, I think it's professional.
Well,
I think it's the worst. I haven't been to many football fields.
Fenway would be the worst if it wasn't.
But yeah, it's historical. So, like at least you have that going for you. But like the thing is, what I'm getting to is like the A's owner is not only one of the richest owners in baseball, but he also doesn't spend any money on the team. So clearly you have the money to like pay for the ballpark, right? You're not spending it on the team. You're raking in profits year after year after year, and you're not putting it back into the team. At the least you could do is like build a ballpark, right? But he wanted the city to pay for it. He wanted the city to pay for it. And Oakland is a city that has like all kinds of like social and economical problems that they have to deal with. I mean, I'm not even gonna get into it, but there's lots of what's it called when they put people of a certain race into certain areas?
Gentrification?
Yes. Yeah, so they've gentrified a lot of Oakland, where they've sort of separated some parts to be like rich areas and some parts to be really, really poor areas. And they don't have a lot of money anyway. So like the city needs the money to help out the people that live there. It's not like the best city to live in right now. And like to have a billionaire be like, I want you to pay for a multi-billion-dollar stadium is ridiculous. And the fact that like they fought that for so long is just awful. And now at this point, it's like, I don't know, people are going to blame the city for that because they're not educated on the whole process that we've been through. So yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to see them go. And now like, I don't know, I'm just going to be going to less baseball games. It's less available for me now. It's hard to get into the city. It's expensive to get in the city. It sucks to get into the city. When I say the city, I mean San Francisco. And Giants tickets are more expensive. That was the thing about the A's, is that they were there. So, I mean, I know this has been a long rant, but I mean, as a person that's grown up as an A's fan for my whole life, I mean, I don't, you don't live near the teams that you root for, but like, I don't know. It's hard to,
I get it though, because I live in Martinsville, Virginia, and Martinsville, Virginia, if you didn't know, used to have it's not the same. Let's be honest. It's not the same. We had an affiliate of the Astros. We were literally the rookie ball affiliate of the Astros. Mm-hmm. We still have the stadium. And now they play in the Coastal Plains League, which is like the Cape Cod League, because the city had the opportunity to continue the lease with the Astros and continue to have an affiliate team. That was fun to go to. And they were just like, nah, don't want to anymore. So for like a 5-year period, we just didn't have baseball. And then now it's back, and it's it's the Mustangs, and it's a bunch of these college kids that are 3 tiers below the Cape Cod League that end up going to D2s or like stuff like that, where it's like really the only point of going is to go to the game and get loaded on like, $3 beer night or whatever. It sucks. And it sucks too. I understand it in a way, because similar situations have happened in the NFL. And I think the most comparable is Dean Spanos kind of bending over San Diego with Qualcomm, demanding a new stadium, or we're going to move the Chargers. And I fear a similar situation too, because they moved to Los Angeles, where they're basically going to end up being second fiddle team, because Vegas is already a baseball town. It's not like, oh, they're cornering the market. Las Vegas has baseball tradition. Like, a lot of great baseball players have come out of Las Vegas. Chris Bryant, Bryce Harper, just to name 2 of them. Both of them have won MVPs. A lot of the fans in Vegas are already fans of different non-Oakland A's teams from California. So now you're going to just transplant the A's and be like, hey, look, here's our baseball team that won, what'd you say, probably 40 games? Like, who gives a shit? Who is going to care? Like
Nobody. And
nobody
it would be
nobody's gonna care.
such a slap in the face to have the owner finally start spending money on the team.
Yeah, that's what's gonna suck. And John Fisher's a bastard for that. And John Fisher's gonna end up taking that team and he'll spend some money on them. Yeah, give that one to John Fisher. John Fisher is gonna spend money on the team when they're in Vegas, and no one's gonna care, and no one's still gonna go. They can build a $1,000,000,000 stadium. Who cares? Fans don't care. And there's a reason that like the Chargers got moved to Los Angeles. They're like the 4th most popular team in Los Angeles. That's a football team. Like there are more Raiders fans in LA than there were ever Chargers fans. And that's why they're the little brother team that has to play with the Rams. They share the stadium. That's why the stadium is shaped like a giant ram's head. They're the little brother team. And now Oakland gets to go to Las Vegas and be the only team, but no one cares. I promise they don't. And I hate that. I really hate that because it's different. And I understand Oakland lost the Raiders. That one really stings. The Warriors, the Warriors were good maybe and before their stretch where they were insanely dominant. They were maybe good for 5 years the entire time
they were there. Awful. They had one good season when I was a kid.
They were horrible. They were good in like the 90s, which we weren't alive for that, so who knows? Or who cares? Really, I don't. So I mean, if you were alive when they were good with Chris Mullin and them, wonderful. But they were good with Durant and Curry, and then they move. So like that one doesn't sting as bad. It's not like Oakland, like the Oakland A's are an expansion team. They are one of the most historic and significant franchises in all of baseball.
They've been in Oakland for decades.
Yeah, they've won 9 World Series, for God's sake. And you're going to take this team that should be one of the blue bloods in all of baseball. That's literally just been, it's like an old mom and pop store that used to be the talk of the town. And now nobody goes. So
that's a great analogy.
And it's like nobody goes and everything sucks inside and the ceiling's falling in. It sucks because the A's should be in the same echelon of teams like the Cubs and the Red Sox, the Dodgers and the Yankees. And they're not, and they haven't been for a long time.
And we've got diehard fans and stuff like still people support the team, even though they don't put any money into it. They raise the ticket prices. The stadium is awful and the team is terrible for like every other year for the majority of the time. It's like people are still big fans. And the last point I'll make is like, I mean, as people living in the East Bay, we're really lucky that we do still have the Giants, right? So we'll be able to just travel a little further to the Giants ballpark. And like, that's not what most people can say for like, if you lost your baseball team in Minnesota, you got nowhere else to go. Right.
Right.
But I think the hardest part about this is going to be the next 2 or 3 years, 2024 through 2026. We've already seen this year. Why would Fisher put any money into this team over the next 3 years before they move? They're going to raise the ticket prices. They're not going to do anything about the team is going to be terrible for 3 years and nobody's going to go to the ballpark because they have they know that the team doesn't have allegiance to them. And they know that then they're going to lose their allegiance because the team is going to move. So it's just like the next 3 years of Oakland baseball, you could say 4 years, you can include this year, are just going to be awful. It's just going to be terrible. They should be relegated. They're going to be so bad.
They've installed this they came out with this news and they basically just installed a lame duck baseball team into that stadium. And like, here you go. Enjoy this, you dumbasses. Come out and give us your money so you can watch this team we're going to take away from you eventually. Like John
just
Fisher,
go there to drink beer now.
John Fisher's a scumbag. We're going to leave it at that and move on. Or else we'll talk about it the rest of the time. We'll talk about another weird little situation, and it's Max Scherzer. He got suspended for sticky stuff, being a weirdo, putting a bunch of gunk on his hands. He had apparently too much rosin on his hands. What was it? What's the umpire's name? Because he's the one that's the only one that's given out the suspensions for it.
I knew it a couple days ago. I can look it up.
Like Cousy or something. Phil Cousy.
Yeah, it's Phil Cousy.
Yeah, whatever.
Couzy. Yeah,
that guy. He told Max Scherzer he was being a naughty little boy. He needed to go wash his hands. And now Max Scherzer's got a 10-game suspension for sticky stuff.
Yeah. Do you actually believe that he's using sticky stuff? No. And there's nobody that believes that except for maybe those umpires. And I saw the guy who does the Barstool baseball podcast since Carabas left.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know his name.
he was giving shit to Scherzer, and I was just like, bro, are you kidding me? Nobody agrees with you. Like, I don't know. There was this whole thing about Scherzer saying like he was in contact with that Angels guy that was like the big sticky stuff guy before the crackdown. And he was talking about how he was just using it to have a grip. So maybe Scherzer used a little bit of sticky stuff in the past, but so did Garrett Cole. And it, like, I don't know, nobody's gotten suspended except for like two nobodies, like Hector Santiago, and I can't even remember the other one.
He played for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I can't even remember who it was. Regardless, this is so goofy. The thing is, it comes 2 days after Domingo Germán had the same thing happen to him, and they just said, go wash your hands. And they're like, all right, you're good now. Apparently, Scherzer didn't wash his hands well enough as they watched him do it. But like, I don't know, the whole John Boy breakdown talked about how he like used alcohol to wash off his hands, and the umpires watched him do that. And that's to, you know, get off the sticky stuff on there. You use alcohol or soap. Like, I don't know. It's like when you're washing dishes, you're not going to get stuff off with water. You got to use soap to like get it off. It's like when you get oil on your hands, that kind of stuff. It's difficult to get off. You have to use a substance other than water and soap. But yeah, apparently alcohol can make your hands even stickier after using it. So I don't know if he did that and the umpires were just like okay with it or what. But, you know, I don't think Scherzer's a guy that's cheating, you know? And I mean,
no, I don't
the whole thing about that you can have too much rosin, why put it on the freaking mound? Why put it on the mound? Why let you have it in the dugout if there's a level that you're not allowed to have it at? It's like, okay, don't let them use it if there's a level where it's too much of it. I also think it's weird that they put it on in the dugout. I didn't know that was a thing, but I've been learning that recently. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing, and then Scherzer was just like decided not to appeal it because he was just like, you know what? There's just no point because Major League Baseball is the one arbitrating it. So there's not going to be like a neutral arbitrator to argue with. So yeah, I mean, I think it's all pretty stupid, and I felt pretty bad for Scherzer. That was just so ump show, and I thought we've been moving away from the ump show with all those veterans retiring, but you know, Cuzzy seems to be the guy that like wants to make it about him recently.
Yeah, Phil Cuzzy's an asshole. He's the only one that's actually had anything to do with these suspensions. He's been the one in charge for all three now that a player has been suspended for sticky stuff. And if they went and looked at it, his main issue is he is investigating the glove. Do you remember watching the clip?
Yeah.
You remember halfway through it when Scherzer's about to walk off and he takes the glove and he like shoves it into his chest?
I saw that more of as like I didn't think that was aggressive. I saw that more as like a challenge, like I don't know, like when you have like your coach and he's just like, oh, like I don't know, like you have like a little talk and he's just like, all right, like get back out there.
I took that one a little bit rough, and I'm honestly sure that Max Scherzer probably took that one a little bit differently too, because like Max Scherzer's already kind of he's a Bumgarner type. He's intense, a bit of an asshole. Let's be real. But he kind of shoved it into his chest, and I'm sure that went over real well with Scherzer, but he was probably just so over the situation at that point. I don't know. It is complete and total ump show. That's exactly what it is. And it sucks because this stuff needs to be going away. But the umpires have a union, so they get to do whatever they want. And that basically is what it amounts to. They can be terrible. They can, you know, do all these things. It's the same. To me, this situation felt very similar to the Mad Bum one where he's rubbing his hand. Like, it's like, I don't know. It felt like they were
still boils my blood.
It felt like he was looking for something to get Scherzer to get him out. And that's what frustrates me. Because Scherzer doesn't strike me as the type that would do that. You know, like he was one of the most outspoken ones. Like, yeah, get rid of it. I don't care. And then, oh yeah, he's got sticky.
I just hope it doesn't like tarnish his Hall of Fame resume. You know.
It won't. Everyone will be like, wow, remember when Phil Cuzzy was being such an idiot back then?
Speaking of Bumgarner, you saw he got DFA'd?
I put that in the chat when it happened, Jake.
Yeah. No, I'm just
Jake's favorite
making sure. I'm asking a question on a podcast for people that don't know that we're talking outside of this.
Me and Jake regularly do talk in a group chat
about we do.
And about the podcast when we're not doing it. We do play.
Yes.
Yeah, Madison Bumgarner got DFA'd because he sucks.
He was pretty bad.
He's bad at baseball.
He was not great.
What sucks is they didn't call out Brandon Pfaadt.
Well, the thing is, Pfaadt started the same day that Bumgarner would have. So
that's true. He'll probably be up.
It's like he's sort of in the wrong timeline for that. So they called up a reliever, and they're planning to start Tommy Henry on Sunday. So like Fott started on Thursday, so he wasn't going to start on Sunday, right? And that's when they needed a starter. So I think Fott could still come up. But I mean, just looking at Bumgarner's career in Arizona, it started in 2020 and lasted through 2023. I think it was a 5-year deal.
Sounds right. 5-year, like 80
5-year,
85,
and he barely lasted 3.5. Not even 3.5. You want to guess his ERA across 363 innings and 69 starts?
Is it north of 5?
Yes, sir.
5.4.
5.23 ERA. He was worth 1 win above replacement. He had 1 year over good. 200 innings. Yeah, and it's just because he threw 200 innings in 2019 with a 3.3 WAR. No, that was 2019. He had 1 season above 1 WAR. That was 2021. He was at 1.5.
He's still like Madison Bumgarner's a Felix Hernandez type for me, where it feels like he's really old, and he's not.
No, he's 33 this year.
He's 33, but he's also
go back to the Giants. We need the cheating lab to come into effect, and he's going to be a postseason legend again.
He's also got 2,200 innings on his arm, though. So like,
yeah,
he's been a workhorse.
Oh yeah,
he needs to figure something out, because this was a guy. Honestly, he's got like what, almost 33 career F4. You're looking at his page.
32.4. Yeah.
If he has a decent rest of his career, he had like a decent chance to be an outside Hall of Famer
because of the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And now 3 World Series.
Now that he has now that he has pooped the proverbial bed, he needs to get it back on track, or he has no chance at the Hall of Fame. I don't think he really cares, to be honest.
No, but not at all. Mason Sanders.
Yeah, get him somewhere where he can go do rodeos on his off days, and he'll probably be happy. And then maybe he'll be happy for once in his life, and he can actually pitch good again. Yeah. So enough.
Yeah, put him on the Rangers with Bochy.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Yeah,
that would be so sick.
Because he'd be in Texas, Rodeo City, and then
he's from North Carolina.
Be back with Bochy. Is he? Yeah. Well, South.
Yeah, that's close enough.
South is the South.
Braves. Come on, Braves.
I don't think they want him. They're actually looking to be good.
Speaking of Bumgarner, let's talk about a bum. Anthony Bass.
Oh.
Anthony Bass threw a fit on Twitter because he's a man child. Because his little goblin children were making a mess on an airplane, and his wife was there, and the flight attendant would not clean up after him and his children. Instead, he had to, and he was not happy about it. So he went to Twitter and threw a big fit, and everyone rightfully told him he was being an idiot. Mm-hmm. And now Tommy Lauren's trying to defend him, and she's an idiot. So
yeah, we said before the podcast, or at least I said, if Tommy Lauren is taking your side, you know you're wrong. Just some clarifying things. Bass was not even on the flight.
Oh, really?
No, and I figured that out later. So it was just like his wife was just like,
complaining for his wife.
Yeah,
his wife,
exactly.
His wife was being a baby.
And also another clarifying thing is that the airline gave them the popcorn that the toddlers. So like a lot of people were like taking their side, just like, oh, you shouldn't give like a messy thing if you like don't want to clean it up. And it's just like, I don't know. There's nobody that's like,
it's not a messy thing.
Yeah,
it's popcorn. It's popcorn. It's a finger food. Like literally, maybe they probably shouldn't have given it to toddlers, but they probably also assumed that the parent responsible for those toddlers would be responsible and not. Also,
one last clarifying thing is that the wife was pregnant, like a lot pregnant, which is not only weird that she was on a flight, but I think it's a lot of people were defending like, oh, you shouldn't be making a pregnant wife like clean up, but
he also shouldn't be making his pregnant wife with all of their children fly by herself.
Yeah. Ooh, good point. Yeah.
Not a good idea, Bob.
I think there are points where it's like you can take one side or the other. I see it there. I think the biggest thing that I have a problem with is just taking to Twitter to just like complain about an internal thing that has nothing to do with anybody else.
He was trying to use his clout to make
and then likely getting that attendant fired. That lady now probably doesn't have a job because they said they were handling it internally, and it's just like you really took to Twitter to blast like an unknown anonymous flight attendant because your wife was like probably texting you about, like all mad and stuff about having to pick up popcorn. It's like I get both sides. but you sort of make yourself look stupid by making it like a public thing, going to Twitter to like get action off of it. Like you weren't there. Just like have your wife deal with it if you want like some like the attendant to be reprimanded, but like just going to Twitter and being
That
like, oh, I'm
sucks.
gonna let like the I'm just gonna like complain on Twitter, make the airline look bad, and force them to fire the person. And it's like, just using your clout for that. And then we did get a great outcome from it when I wish I could play the video, but when he pitched for the next time the next day, the Astros announcer, when Bass was climbing the mound, he said Anthony Bass on to try and clean it up, which is I really hope that was a planned one because that was so good.
Oh yeah, that's a world class. That's a world class goofing on somebody. Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm of the opinion that if you're going to take children on a place like an airplane or out in public, that you need to be like insanely responsible for them and probably not let them throw stuff all over the place.
Yep.
I understand that kids are kids and accidents happen, but going on Twitter also to make a big deal about it is so shitty, man. That's so childish. Really childish. Trying to use, I'm a big man with a verified Twitter account, which is probably not verified anymore because Elon Musk is also a big man child.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's so dumb. Someone who is not dumb and is wonderful actually is Shohei Ohtani. And he's insane. He is
the
insane.
GOAT.
Oh yeah, I'll let you rattle off all the things about Tungsten Armo Doyle's long lost grandson.
Yeah, I mean he just keeps getting better. Is the crazy
it's
part?
So like, annoying.
He was like such a good hitter his first MVP year, and last year he just like improved as a pitcher so much, and this year it's just like might be the best pitcher in baseball, and then he also hits. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say that until it like gets like not crazy anymore, but it's still crazy. I keep having this before we get into it. I keep having this argument with my brother that to the best player ever. And he says, no, like you need to have longevity. And I'm like, no. Okay, well, I'm not talking about having the best career ever. I'm saying he's the best person that's ever played baseball.
That's the difference is like, that's a difference too, is longevity and talent wise. Like Derek Jeter has one of the best baseball careers ever, but is not the GOAT, you know?
No.
While simultaneously, we were robbed of previously before Ohtani. I think the most talented person that ever played baseball was probably Ken Griffey Jr. And then Ken Griffey Jr. got robbed of about 6 years of his career because his hamstring was so dead they literally had to basically staple it to the bone. Mm-hmm. Like Shohei Ohtani so far is the single most talented person we have seen play baseball and potentially an American sport.
But
which is wild.
There's a thing to be said about longevity, and I think his level of longevity is different. I think we could see him do this for a month, like pitch and hit at an elite level, and without a doubt say that he is the most talented player ever to play baseball. If he was just injured the rest of his career, but had 1 month where he was like an ace and the best hitter on his team, like you can't argue that that's not the best player to ever play baseball, even if he wasn't healthy the rest of his year or the rest of his career. But the fact that we've now seen it over 2+ seasons, that's like longevity enough for me to say like there's nobody that's ever played baseball that's been better than Shohei Ohtani. And I think the next question is, how long does he have to do it to guarantee a Hall of Fame spot? If he retired after this season, after another amazing season, is he a Hall of Famer?
After this season.
I think even before this season he was.
If the Hall of was, yeah, probably. But if the Hall of Fame, okay, so if the Hall of Fame wasn't mainly voted on by a bunch of dudes that are in their 60s to 80s, like old chuds that still use like ERA and like postseason stuff as like an example, then yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. But I think after this season, those chuds would have to be like, oh yeah, Shohei Ohtani, he's pretty good, and then they'd have to put him in the Hall of Fame.
I think there's going to be a legit conversation where it's just like, is he the best player of all time? And it's all going to come down to the same questions. I asked my brother, okay, who's better than Shohei Ohtani, like best player of all time? He goes Babe Ruth, and I go, okay, you know what Babe Ruth didn't do? Play against black people.
What Babe Ruth did do?
Kill his wife.
Killed his wife.
And then he said like Hank Aaron. And I say, you know what Hank Aaron didn't do? Pitch. You know what Willie Mays didn't do? Pitch. You know what Barry Bonds didn't do? Pitch. You know what Randy Johnson didn't do? Hit. It's just like there's no conversation where it's like he's not the best baseball player that's ever graced a baseball field. And I don't care how long he's done it for. It's like I would even say best career ever if he does it for 3 years, because the level, it's like the factor of level that he's playing at is insane, and it's incalculable by WAR. I don't care if he's not a 10 WAR player or a 20 WAR player every single year. What he's doing is unheard of. We're not only so lucky to see this, but I think it's like it's absolutely bonkers. But to back everything up, the man has been going off as a pitcher this year. 0.64 ERA across his first 5 starts, one of which was cut short by rain. And through those first 5 starts, he's got the lowest opponent batting average ever, with a 0.92 batting average against, and that's with a minimum of 20 innings pitched. Just unhittable. And I think the biggest question now.
You want a cool fact with that average stat?
Yes.
What do you think the line against Ohtani facing or for batters facing Ohtani for the 3rd time in a game this year?
3rd time? You would expect it to be better.
Yeah. What do you think it is? What do you think they have accumulated against him 3rd time seeing him?
Like a 150 average. Better or worse? Worse. Is it better or worse than his overall average?
Worse.
Like worse for the batters?
Worse for the batters.
No way. What is he like allowing an 060?
They are 0 for 24.
0 hits?
They are 0 for 24.
Oh my God.
With 15 Ks.
That's ridiculous.
The third time through the order. He's the best player on the planet. He's the best pitcher currently in baseball. He's consistently one of the best hitters. Also, in case you were unaware, he's one of the fastest players in baseball. He hasn't really graded that way for StatCast sprint speed metrics this year, but he has in the past. I think he's in like the 50th or 55th to 60th percentile, which is still insane because he's a 6'4" man that pitches and hits. He's a 6-tool player. He does everything that you could ever want a baseball player to do. He's like literally if you created a player when you were a kid in Road to the Show on MLB The Show, and you just start cranking dingers with your pitcher or whatever when you get to hit on an NL team. But he does that all the time. He's just ridiculous. He's the most talented. He might be one of the most talented athletes ever.
No, the most. I don't like, who's more talented?
I'd have to think. Like across all of the sports, genuinely would have to think.
There's nobody. Nobody does like both of the things.
Like, I don't know. The closest weird like one that you can come up with is maybe like Bo Jackson, because he was a decent baseball player and an elite football player. But even then, it's like good.
So Ohtani would be the best football player of all time.
He probably would, because he's fast and he's 6'4".
Yeah. My brother was asking the question, do you think, like, I know he won't, but do you think he could win both Triple Crowns?
Oh,
that would be so sick.
That would be nuts.
It's the crazy thing is that actually is average, like something you can consider. That's the only thing I was worried about.
The average would hurt him because he's consistently right around 270 to 280.
It's just crazy that we can even consider that.
Yeah,
at all.
The fact that we're having an argument
is
testament to how good he is.
Okay. Last question. Do you think he's going to be traded?
100%.
And why is it the Cubs?
Because so here I already laid out my opinion to Jake several days ago on why I think Ohtani will be traded specifically to the Cubs. I think the only team, I think he obviously could get traded anywhere, but I honestly think the Angels would try to do right by him for any potential chance to try to get him again. But I think the Cubs would probably outlay the farm for him. Basically, anybody not named Pete Crow Armstrong would probably be traded.
And Pete Crow Armstrong.
I think they would trade Pete Crow Armstrong.
Extend Bellinger.
I think they would trade Pete Crow Armstrong to the Angels for them if they guaranteed that they would also extend Ohtani. I don't think they'd do it just for half a season of Ohtani. But if they were like, oh, yeah, we'll get him, then 100%. Ohtani, in case you were unaware, when he had his whole courting process, when he was posted by, I think he was from the Nippon Ham Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was posted, he had a short list of teams that he would speak to. Almost every single one of them was on the West Coast. Angels, Dodgers. I think he spoke to the Giants. Did he speak to the Padres? He might have spoke to the Padres, but
Probably.
it wasn't that big. The only team that was not one of those was the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs have money to spend. The only ones that they are actively spending money on right now are the extended Nico Hoerner, Dansby Swanson. Marcus Stroman's money comes off the books this year, I think, and Seiya Suzuki. And there's the last one, Seiya Suzuki. Him and Seiya Suzuki are insanely close. Obviously, played together for Team Japan, or would have if Seiya Suzuki hadn't gotten hurt. But they're really close, and supposedly has been talking it up. Ohtani said a couple things about the Cubs in the past. I genuinely think if he's going to get traded somewhere that is not the Dodgers, or sign somewhere, really,
don't say it. Please
that's
stop.
Not the Dodgers. It'll
don't
be the
say
Cubs.
That. Stop saying their name.
Well,
if he gets traded to the Dodgers,
it's not going to happen.
Cry.
It's not going to happen because he's
it better not. Any team except for the Dodgers and the Yankees, please. Actually, I would not mind as much as if you went to the Yankees. I just think that would be like cool. Just for the I don't know, historical aspect of that and seeing him hit bombs into the short right field porch. And
I don't want to see that. That's stupid.
I don't think Yankees fans would appreciate him anything but the Dodgers. If he goes to the Dodgers, I'm literally going to be so upset. I can't even think about it anymore. I don't even want to watch baseball.
He would be so sick with the Cubs too. And they've had several Japanese players in the past too that I'm sure he'd probably talk to. Like Murakaka, or excuse me,
Munetaka Murakami.
Yeah, Munetaka Murakami. And no, it's not Murakami. It's what's his name?
Who are you talking about? The third baseman?
No, they had what's his name?
Who? What team?
For the Cubs.
What Japanese players have they had in the past?
Munenori Kawasaki.
The boy. And Kosuke Fukudome?
Yeah, because Kosuke Fukudome, and then they had Uehara.
They had Darvish for a while.
They had Yu Darvish, and they had Koji Uehara. They've had a bunch of Japanese players. Uehara was on the 2017 team. So, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of Japanese players. There's history there. It's the only team that was on a short list, so he obviously has some sort of meaning with the Cubs. Obviously, I'm talking completely out of my ass because I really, really want the Cubs to get him. But there's smoke to that fire. I really think there is. If not to get traded,
go ahead.
But also the Cubs are currently run differential wise and record wise one of the best. Their run differential wise, they're the best team in the NL.
How do they have a worse record than the Pirates? What?
Who, the Cubs?
Yeah,
couldn't tell you, man.
Pirates are 14-7. Who said that was allowed to happen?
They'll fall.
I mean, I might as well use it now.
They'll fall off. The Cubs won't, because the Cubs are sick.
Might as well use this now, Davis.
That's my favorite meme. Put the Bob on.
I know we've been using it a lot.
The original one of that is Little Caesars.
It's Little Caesar so good.
Yeah.
I've never seen that one. That's really funny.
But Pirates have also played more games than the Cubs, Jake.
More games. They've still got a better winning percentage.
Well, who cares about winning percentage? Put the Bob nutting one up there too.
Yeah, I didn't have it. I think it's. I hope the Angels don't trade him. I would love to see him and Trout give like one go into the postseason.
If they're
500 right now, I don't know.
If they're close to the postseason,
then no way.
But if they implode like the Angels are apt to do so, then he's gone.
I think it's like if they're under 500, they trade him. If they're over 500, they don't.
I honestly think if they're remotely close to 500, like unless they're 10 games out of being 500, I think they would hold.
Yeah,
they would hold on to him.
Good call.
Because I mean that's their livelihood. That's Art Moreno's life right there. He's gonna have a coronary if he doesn't resign Ohtani.
Get rid of that guy.
But yeah, he sucks. But you know who else sucks is the Rockies.
Can't go podcast without mentioning them.
This is a Rockies podcast, so we got to talk about the Rockies. They called up Nolan Jones. What day did they call up Nolan Jones, Jake?
I don't know. Sometime last week.
They called up Nolan Jones. They had him up for 3 games. Didn't play a single bit. No at-bats, nothing. No defensive replacements, pinch runner, anything. Had him up for 3 games. Sent him back down. Didn't give him an at-bat. Wasted their service time, and instead they were starting bums over there, like Jerks and Profar over him. So that's really fun. There's a reason they traded for Nolan Jones, and it's to have him come up to watch a couple games, and it's just like, hey, Nolan, you want some front row seats to the Rockies games? And then he was probably like, oh God, please no, and then they called him up anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's just classic Rockies. It's really funny that they consistently just do goofy stuff. I thought it was cool. They were like, "Oh, we're calling him Nolan Jones." I'm like, finally.
Yeah,
like he should have started the season with them. And then he just did not play at all. Like, what was the point of calling him up? Who called him up and who calls the shots to not play him? Is it like Bud Black just being a terrible manager? Speaking of, I would like to do a manager tier list next episode. So think about that.
Is Bud, so before we even get to that, is Bud Black a good manager or
no, because the one thing that shows is that he chooses continuously to or just to be employed by the Rockies. He does not have to be employed by
that's true. He has poor judgment because he has not quit his job.
Exactly.
They probably, to be fair, that job's probably sick. Like their stadiums,
they do not care how he does.
Yeah,
they're just like, oh, bro, you're a genius, bud. Like keep it up.
They probably don't even ask him how the games are going because they probably don't even go. They don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, bud, how's the game? How are the games going? Oh yeah, going really good.
Hey, we're having some fun out there. You know,
who's Norman James? Who's Norman James?
I thought that guy was on the Cardinals.
I thought we traded him. And then it's like, oh no, it's different Nolan.
It's just ridiculous that like they would just call him up and just not let him do. I don't know what they're doing, but you know, Rocky's gonna Rocky. I love it. We need a meme team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're committed.
Mm-hmm.
They're committed to it. At that point, like
it's a bit.
It's gotta be. It really has to be. I don't get it because they put in Harold Castro before him. In a game, like
they'll play anybody. They'll play anybody that has played baseball before over him.
Yeah, Mike Moustakas is Husk. They'll put him in.
No, he's terrible. Yeah, they're playing Mike Moustakas, Profar, Blackman,
Juan Brito.
Anybody
probably will
else
get a game before him.
Did you see
Carlos Gonzalez?
There's a guy on the Mets named Jose Butto.
That's sick.
His last name is Butto.
I bet he's nuts, man.
He made one start and it was actually good.
What a guy.
Jose Butto. I don't think that's how it's pronounced, but that's how it looks.
I just don't understand because the one thing the Rockies are supposed to be good at is scoring runs, and they aren't scoring runs. Like even at home, they've been terrible. Their only good hitter has been Ryan McMahon, and he hasn't been that good.
So it's pretty clear already what the worst teams in baseball are, and it's like the Rockies, the Nationals, the Reds, the Royals are just as bad as the A's. That is somewhat surprising. The Tigers are actually better than the White Sox. What the heck? And then the A's are terrible.
The Tigers record, to be fair, they played good teams too. So like that's a real record.
I just don't know how they're doing that.
The White Sox still suck, and then the Royals can't score any runs either. The Royals have had several games where they've gotten completely destroyed. Also,
no, they're terrible. They're so bad.
I had Brady Singer. I had him because I dropped him because he sucks. But I had Brady Singer on my fantasy team, and he was supposed to be their ace, and he has gotten completely trash canned, like on every single start he's had outside the opening day start.
Yeah,
I think he didn't start opening day because Zach Greinke for whatever reason did.
I think there's pretty good parity between like the middle tier and the top tier of baseball teams. If we split them all into like 3 tiers, we got the meh tier, we got the good tier, and we got the bad tier. I think the first 2 tiers, there's actually pretty good parity. I think they're all pretty close and like they can all compete day to day. The bottom tier is so far away from the rest of the league. It's like the Moneyball meme where it's just like there's 29 teams, 50 feet of trash. And then the A's. Yeah. That's just the same thing, except the A's are now joined by like 3 or 4 other teams. And it's like
the Royals.
They're so far away, worse than all the rest of the league. Like them, the Royals, the A's, the Nationals, the Reds. Like there's just some teams that are just so bad, and it's like, what are you doing? Especially some of these teams that are supposed to be like taking that next step. The Royals are like got a lot of their top prospects up. Like now's the time to start looking better, and they just keep looking worse. Same with the Tigers. It's just like, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, the parity amongst the bottom 5 teams in baseball, they're all so bad.
The Tigers. So for me, the most egregious one of those is the Tigers, because the Tigers are trying. Like the Tigers are trying to be good. Like they've called up all their guys.
No, they didn't do anything this offseason.
They didn't, because they did all of it last offseason and it didn't work.
What did they do last offseason outside of signing up Baez?
They signed Baez. They signed Baez and Chafin, and they signed a bunch of guys that was like, okay, we can take our team that was like,
Chafin's not on the team anymore.
Yeah, they signed him to like a 2-year deal, and they let him go.
I think it was a player option.
God, that's the quickest decline of a player option of all
time.
I know,
right?
I'd rather retire than play for them.
It's just like their hitting is so bad. Like Riley Green is their number 3 hitter, and I think he's got a bright future, but right now he's got a 91 WRC plus, and that's what's considered the best hitter on your team.
I think their best hitter at one point was Nick Maton, and it might still be Nick Maton.
He's leading off every day, and I think their best hitter is Kerry Carpenter.
Shout out to Kerry Carpenter, former Virginia Tech Hokie.
He hit a home run. I streamed him. He hit a home run for me. Yeah, at least they got Akil Baddoo back up, so they're having fun.
The GOAT.
Yeah, and then their pitching is just also bad. So I don't know what they're doing. Their player development is awful. They don't.
If they just waited one more year to suck, they would have got Adley. And they got stuck.
I don't know what they're doing.
They got stuck with Torque and Casey Mize.
I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know how they're third place in their division.
I hope it stays that way. That'd be so sick.
Pretty crazy.
The White Sox are so bad. Why are the White Sox so bad?
I don't know.
Good, but also,
I don't know. Their lineups, I think they're already dealing with injuries is the thing. They've got Moncada and Tim Anderson out, and they're missing Hendricks the whole year. Their bullpen is one of the worst in baseball.
Hendricks is good. Hendricks is good, but those other two guys suck. So
I think it's employing noted wife beater and child beater Mike Clevenger.
Yeah, I hope he's getting shelled.
They're cursed. They are cursed.
Well, let's get to our next segment before we talk about how bad the Tigers are, because that could also take the rest of the podcast. So do you want to get to our meme segment?
I mean, I used all the memes throughout. Okay. So, I mean, we can just run down,
Hold that. Remember,
Player of the Week.
Fat Garrett Cole.
Player of the Week, Fat Garrett Cole.
Yeah, do the little meme rundown of all the stuff we talked about.
Yeah. Oh, we got Player of the Week, Fat Garrett Cole. We got Shohei Ohtani's going to be traded to the Cubs. It's official, and you see it's right there. We got the A's. They just are losing by so much. They could probably post this every day, and it would make sense, even when they win. This is how all A's fans feel about the team being moved to Las Vegas. We got Anthony Bass on to try to clean it up. So good. And then we just got the Pirates being awesome. 667 winning percentage. I'm a Pirates fan. Go Buccos.
I sent you another meme.
Raise it. It's too late now.
Dang. It's a picture of G-Man Choi, and it says you lost to the Pirates. G-Man, that sucks for you.
There we go. Beautiful. Can totally see it.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, actually can see it.
I also got that one for the Braves.
Nice.
But this will be for the next podcast. So we've talked about all the baseball things that we are going to talk about, other than our last segment, which is always done by Mr. Jake Crumpler. And it's time to hand him the bullpen phone so he can make a call to bring in the closer.
Yes, and we've got an obscure one, Brandon Lyon. I just scrolled way down, like into the 200s of the saves leaderboard. Yeah, and then I got to Brandon Lyon, and yeah, let's kick it off. Brandon Lyon had a 12-year career from 2001 to 2013, during which he pitched for the Blue Jays, Red Sox, Diamondbacks, Tigers, Astros, and Mets. He featured a 5-pitch arsenal with fastballs, 3 of them, averaging low 90-mile-per-hour velocity. That's a 4-seamer, a 2-seamer, and a cutter. He also had a curveball in the high 70s to low 80s, and he occasionally threw a mid-80s changeup. The right-hander debuted in August of 2001 versus the Orioles, and he went off. He tossed 7 1/3 innings, allowing just 4 hits with 1 run, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. He earned the win in his debut, and he became the second youngest winning pitcher in Blue Jays history, which is pretty cool. The rest of the season, his rookie debut, was pretty unspectacular. He started 11 games in total with a 4.29 ERA, which was slightly above average, 107 ERA plus. And then after struggling as a starter to begin 2002, they transitioned him into a bullpen role, and that was just a terrible year for him. Across 15 games, 10 games started, he had a 6.53 ERA. He was then designated for assignment and claimed off waivers by the Red Sox. and they just decided to make him a permanent reliever. He secured the first 9 saves of his career in 2003, though the season wasn't great. And then he missed all of 2004 after being traded to the Diamondbacks. His first year in Arizona wasn't great. Actually, it was terrible. 6.44 ERA with a 1.84 whip and 14 saves, a new career high. But then he started to figure things out. The next year in 2006, he had a 3.89 ERA across a nice 69 and a third innings pitched, and he carried that over into one of his best seasons in 2007, where he tossed 74 innings with a career best 2.68 ERA, a 1.24 whip, and just 2 saves, as he was like the setup guy to, I think it was Valverde at the time. And then he became the full-time closer in 2008, but then lost the job in the second half to Chad Qualls. So he did rack up a career high 26 saves because he was the full-time closer, but that second half dragged his ERA down to 4.70. And then in the offseason, he signed a 1-year deal with the Tigers prior to 2009, and he turned in probably the best season of his career in his first year in Detroit. He tossed a career high 78 and 2/3 innings with a career high 57 strikeouts, a 2.86 ERA, a career best 1.11 whip, and 3 saves, as he was the setup guy there. And then he parlayed that success into a 3-year deal with the Astros. The first season, 2010, was great, as he tossed 78 innings of 3.12 ERA ball and racked up 20 saves, but everything fell apart in 2011. If I say 2.40, that sounds pretty good, but when I tell you that's his whip, it's awful. Ooh. He had 11.48 ERA that year with a 2.40 whip and just 4 saves. And after being pretty solid for the first half of 2012, the Astros felt like they had enough, and they traded him to the Blue Jays at the 2012 deadline, and he pitched to a 2.88 ERA with 4 wins and 1 save in his stint with Toronto. His second stint. He rounded out his career in 2013 with the in Queens with the New York Mets, and that wrapped up his career, a career in which he racked up 6.3 Baseball Reference WAR across 681 in the third innings pitched, with 465 strikeouts, posting a 4.16 ERA and a 1.38 ERA. I forgot to put his career saves number, which is 79 career saves, which ties him for 220th on the all-time saves leaderboard, alongside other relievers, well-known ones: Stan Belinda, Jason Grilli, Grant Jackson, Jake McGee, and Blake Trinan. So wonderful career from Mr. Lion.
Oh, yeah. Jake, I normally have a fun little fact about our pitchers for you, but if you actually go to SABR, the Society of American Baseball Research, it says this bio has not been assigned. There's no information about this player.
That guy. Yeah. All my homies hate Brandon Lyon.
He went to I can tell you where he went. He's in College Hall of Fame, wherever college he went to. Yeah, he went to a weird college. I saw that. He went to Utah Tech. And then the community college he went to was called Dixie State. The Dixie State. Don't talk about Jason Grilli like that, Jake. Don't talk about him.
Sorry.
That's a cool dude.
It's a group. It's a group down there at 220.
Oh yeah, Jake McGee, Blake Trinan, and Jason Grilli.
Yeah, right.
Those guys play baseball. Or played baseball. Yeah. Well, that's all the podcast we have for today. That's all enough Jason Grilli for today and memes. Hope you enjoyed it, because I sure did. Give me a little Mr. Rogers spiel before we go talk about everything. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at DVSBird, where I complain about sports like baseball, like I'll do on this podcast, where you can check every single Wednesday / Friday / Saturday / whatever day we do it. But the way that you can find that is you have to follow the Athletes Hub, which is the site that presents this, on Twitter at Athletes Hub. You can also go to twitter.com and follow my co-host, Jake Crumpler. His Twitter is Jake Crumpler. It's just his name.
What a surprise.
He's a simple man. But what's not so simple about Jake are his articles, which are really sick. You can read all of them with Athletes Hub and with the other sites he writes for,
pitcherlist.com and baseballhq.com. One of them is premium content. Baseball HQ, got to pay for it, but it's worth it. Pitcher List, though, if that's where you'll find most of my work. Yeah, it is awesome. One of the best baseball websites, one of the best upcoming ones. Will soon be up there in the tier of Fangraphs and Baseball Reference and Baseball Savant. I think it's really good, and you're supporting like up and coming writers and that kind of stuff. So I do couple articles a week over there, whether that be gift breakdowns like we mentioned earlier with Mason Miller, or I've got a Graham Ashcraft article coming out at the beginning of next week, which should be fun. And I also do reliever ranks articles, which is just like every week we do like or every day we do like a depth chart. We talk about the relievers that pitched the day before. So that one's pretty interesting to read all the time. Great fantasy content on that website. I do 2 podcasts over there as well, including one about just relievers called In the Pen. And then I do the weekend editions of the daily pitcher list podcast called the First Pitch Podcast. So yeah, look out for those on Saturday and Sunday mornings. They're short, like 15 to 20 minutes, so that they're an easy listen, especially if you are a listener of 1.5 to 2 times speed podcasts like I am myself. But yeah, great content over there. Definitely go check it out. Go check out the Athletes Hub. Haven't written an article there for a long time just because I got so many other obligations, but at least we're putting out the good word to go check out the website with our podcast.
Yeah. Website's really sick. We both have not written anything since our way too early predictions article, which you can still go back and check in on with the full season as it's going on. We'll probably bump out more stuff eventually as the season kind of rolls on and gets into the swing of things. It's just been a weird time right now, but you can go there and you can check out stuff for all sorts of other sports, especially like soccer. Got a lot of stuff for wrestling, a lot of stuff for basketball. Obviously, they're going to be covering the playoffs. Everything for the upcoming draft, for the NFL draft, which I think is in May. That sounds about right. Jake doesn't know because he doesn't watch that. But we've got a bunch of draft stuff coming out undoubtedly. So if you want to go over there and check real fan opinions from real fans and not mass media mouthpiece outlet, that's what we are, because we just want to make content that we think we would want to enjoy to read primarily. So go over there and check all of that stuff out. And like I said, check in with our socials and check in on the Athletes Hub on Twitter at Athletes Hub, so you can see all of our podcasts going out. We're still not a super big podcast, but we're hoping to change that at some point, and we can make this a bigger thing and enjoy our time complaining about baseball and shit posting the entire time. So that's it for today. Thank you.